This episode is brought to you by Patriot Gold Group. Protect your retirement assets. Check in with the experts over at Patriot Gold. They've been the top-rated gold IRA dealer for 7 years in a row. Go to patriotgoldgroup.com or call 1-888-621-3856 for a free investor guide. It's Thursday, 6 June, the 80th anniversary of one of the most momentous days in modern times, D-Day. Welcome to the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. I'm Mike Baker, your eyes and ears on the world stage. Let's get briefed. First, a terror scare in France as a Russian-Ukrainian national who recently served in the Russian army was arrested after triggering a bomb in a Paris hotel room. Also, world leaders convened in France today for the 80th anniversary commemorating D-Day amid the backdrop of the Putin regime's threats of escalation regarding the war in Ukraine. But first, our afternoon spotlight. A suspected Russian-Ukrainian terrorist was recently apprehended by French authorities after an improvised bomb he was building in a Paris hotel room suddenly went off. Oops. The 26-year-old suspect, whose name is not being released, was allegedly building improvised bombs to use for attacks on French companies supplying weapons to Ukraine. The suspect appears to have accidentally triggered one of the bombs he was building, an explosive favored by ISIS and Al-Qaeda, dubbed the Mother of Satan, according to a report from The Telegraph. The scene unfolded in a hotel at the Charles de Gaulle airport in Paris and left the suspect with severe wounds to the face and arms, though no other injuries were reported. While investigators are keeping tight-lipped about the incident, an anonymous official told The Telegraph that authorities had confirmed the man, who hails from the war-torn Donbass region of Ukraine, had fought with the Russian army in Ukraine over the past few months. The official said, quote, "He arrived in France very recently and was traveling on both Russian and Ukrainian passports, while also carrying passports from other countries. There are indications that he was producing improvised bombs in order to target companies supplying weapons to Ukraine," end quote. And here's a question. How many different passports does one need to carry into France before the French authorities detain you for questioning? The suspect is facing a variety of terrorism-related charges, but is reportedly cooperating with French intelligence despite his injuries. The incident came as world leaders began to convene in Paris for the 80th anniversary commemorations of D-Day, which come amid Russian threats of escalation in Ukraine over NATO's expanded role in the conflict. As we've covered on the PDB, the U.S. and a number of other Western nations, including France, recently gave Ukraine permission to use Western-made weapons to strike targets inside Russia. France also announced last week plans to assemble a European coalition to send military trainers to Ukraine with the hope of expediting recruitment and deployment efforts. Russia responded by threatening to target French troops who enter Ukraine. The incident also comes in the wake of a recent warning from Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk that Russia is planning to carry out attacks across Europe as part of the Putin regime's shadow war against NATO members. Russia's shadow campaign targets not only Ukraine, but also its supporting nations. And this covert conflict involves everything from espionage, cyber attacks, targeted assassinations, and political strong-arming. In May, Poland arrested 9 suspects with ties to Russian intelligence services who were reportedly plotting attacks of sabotage on behalf of the Putin regime. Polish officials said Russia is recruiting people from the criminal underworld, as well as sympathetic nationals of Ukraine, Belarus, and Poland, who then work to sow political and social discord in Europe, engaging in beatings, arson, and politically motivated attacks, among other crimes. While we don't have any indications at this time that the suspect in Paris is tied to a larger operation, well, it's a reminder that pro-Russian forces continue to work from the shadows to destabilize NATO and undermine Western support for Ukraine. Coming up after the break, world leaders convened in France today for the 80th anniversary commemorations of D-Day as Putin's war in Ukraine rages on. I'll be right back. Welcome back. World leaders gathered in France today to mark a milestone, the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings in Normandy. For some history, on June 6, 1944, soldiers from the U.S., the UK, France, Australia, and Canada embarked on the largest amphibious invasion in history. Soldiers stormed 5 stretches of the German-occupied French coastline, setting the stage for the Allied victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. Now, it's no exaggeration to say that the courage and sacrifice of those troops on that fateful day laid the groundwork for the freedoms that we enjoy today. Today's ceremonies were attended by veterans and some 20 world leaders, including President Biden, French President Macron, Ukrainian President Zelensky, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and King Charles. They highlighted that this year's D-Day commemoration may be the last with living veterans. French President Macron bestowed the Legion of Honor, a highly esteemed order of merit, upon 11 American veterans and 1 female veteran from Britain, saying, "You came here to make France a free nation. You're back here today at home, if I may say," end quote. In his speech, President Biden connected the sacrifices of D-Day veterans with Ukraine's current struggle, saying, quote, "We're not far off from the time when the last living voices of those who fought and bled on D-Day will no longer be with us, so we have a special obligation." He said, "We cannot let what happened here be lost in the silence of the years to come," end quote. The president went on to say, "Democracy is not guaranteed. Every generation must preserve it, defend it, and fight for it," end quote. The speech was a clear jab at Russian President Putin, who, since 2014, has not attended D-Day ceremonies due to Russia's annexation of Crimea, and of course, then their invasion of Ukraine. Although the Russians were not involved in the D-Day operation, leaders in the past were invited to the ceremony as the then Soviet Union suffered an estimated 8.7 million military deaths in the fight against Nazi Germany. This year, French President Macron ruled that no high-ranking Russian representatives would attend. The decision follows Putin's rhetoric around the risks of an expanded global conflict and warnings of the potential utilization of nuclear weapons due to the West's involvement in Ukraine. Apparently, Putin forgot that, well, he invaded Ukraine. The gathering in Normandy is a powerful reminder of the courage, service, and sacrifice that changed the course of history. We should all take a moment to honor and remember those who fought for our freedom on that historic day. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Thursday, 6 June. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And to listen to the show ad-free, be sure to check out our premium membership at pdbpremium.com. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool.